Thank you for allowing those of us who want to participate via telephone. And welcome Lee Patterson to your official meeting as a zoning commissioner.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and start. And since I really can't see everybody who's there, I don't know if we need to do an official roll call, but it sounds like everybody's there.
Yep.
Do you guys want to go ahead and just do an
Cunningham.
official roll call?
We can go around the room, let's just do that, so.
Okay.
Start with Lee.
Yeah, just, state my name.
Yeah.
Lee Patterson.
Ed Ragland.
Jerry Hancock.
Jim Moser.
And John?
Don Figueroa here.
All right, and Tracy O'Donnell.
Okay.
So it sounds like we do have everyone. And so we'll go ahead and start our meeting. But first, I don't know if we have anyone, present or if the public is present, but just a reminder to please turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate. Also, those wishing to address the commission on any agenda items should complete a request to address the commission. Submit the request to the assistant prior to the meeting and please indicate the item you would like to address. If you are wishing to address the commission on a public hearing item, you do not need to submit anything in writing. You will just do so at the appropriate time.
And just for clarification,
All right, we'll move.
oh, I was gonna say,
Go ahead.
we don't have any members of the public here.
Okay. Well, it's always good for me to practice that 30 minutes. No. All right, so we'll just move to item number 4, reviewing the minutes from our June 18 meeting. And does anyone have any discussion or anything they noted on that might be changed?
I move we approve the minutes of the June 18th Planning and Zoning meeting.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor to approve the minutes of the June 18 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion is passed. All right, we'll move on to item number 5. Selection of a vice chairperson. The commission shall elect a vice chairperson from among its own members. He shall serve for 1 year until their successor are elected and qualified. So the vice chair is 1 year?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So do you have any nominations or a motion for our vice chairperson?
I'd like to make a motion that Ed Ragland be our vice chairman.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this.
Well, let's just move along before you can oppose.
I was hoping we could wait till we had a full seated committee up here.
Well, I think we do. You just mean because we were all present?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good nomination, and so I recommend we proceed with, we got a motion for Ed Ragland, we got a second. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and all those opposed, say nay.
Is this where I say nay, or? Just putting you
I don't think it
on.
matters.
Yeah. I'm just putting you on notice that if you quit, I'm gone.
All right, motion is passed. Noted. All right, we'll move on to item number 6, staff presentation from Director Anderson. We will review the text amendment for defense type. Director Anderson, please proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson and members of the commission. So, last meeting, we held a public hearing and you reviewed the proposed text amendment regarding fence heights. At that meeting, the commission raised concerns about vehicles leaving a property and not being able to see oncoming vehicles, or perhaps a child walking on the sidewalk. The commission then suggested that solid fencing such as block walls not exceed 36 inches in height, and fencing that is more transparent, such as metal or chain link, not exceed 48 inches in height. And then the commission voted unanimously to continue the public hearing and have staff bring additional language that addresses the issue. So the additional language that I've added to the proposed text amendment, and I'll just read it. You have it in your packet. For clarification for Lee, anything in red is additional language, anything struck through is language being deleted from what currently exists.
Okay.
So the current proposal states that no solid site obscuring fence or freestanding wall higher than 3 feet above grade, and no metal, picket, chain link, or similar open non-site obscuring fence higher than 4 feet above grade shall be constructed in any required front yard, side yard that fronts on a street, or interior side yard, provided, however, that fences constructed in the side yard that fronts on a street or interior side yard may be constructed to a height of 6 feet when located behind the forwardmost part of the main building. Additional language also includes no fence or wall shall be constructed higher than 6 feet along the rear property line, and also fence height shall be measured as the vertical distance between the finished grade at the base of the fence and the top edge of the fence material. And then I included the pictures that were in the last packet that you received. And staff is recommending that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend City Council approve this text amendment, citing goal number 7 of the citywide land use goals and policies of the general plan. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Can you state your name just for the folks who can't see?
Jerry Hancock. If someone has a fence at the present time that's over 4 feet or 3 feet, as is technically the correct height right now, and then over 6 foot in the rear, are they grandfathered in?
Yes, that's correct. So they would be allowed to continue as a grandfathered or non-conforming situation.
Okay, because I've seen what appears to be quite a few fences around as I went and looked, and without throwing anything at anybody, I actually went and measured a couple of them. And one of them's across the street from where I live, and it's the Sunshine Apartments. And all along the highway there in the front, they're a little over 5 feet high. Okay, there's the last scene, it's attractive, it's been painted, it looks nice, but it's set back a little bit, so if a person's pulling out of there, they can see both ways, or if they're, as far as going in and out. So as far as the safety issue, I don't see where that's a concern. My concern was that it is something that there are places, and the way the wording is, I think if you went down around Safford High School's bus garage, or bus yard, you'd see that it's up 10 foot. It's chain link, and in the front, so it doesn't. There's not the setback. And now the last thing I want to say is my fence is going to be torn out because they're going to widen the street in front of my house, and I have a 5 foot fence all the way along the side. It's chain link, but even with this, it would not be legal, because after it gets to the front of the house, then it needs to drop down to 4. Correct.
That's correct.
Okay. If I were to want to put that back in because I was nice enough to let the city come in there and tell me to remove it so they could widen the road, then I'd be in trouble.
Is it the fence that's along the canal?
No, it's the
Okay.
fence that's along the highway by my house.
Yeah, that would be something that we would have to have a conversation of. And I think that's probably negotiable because the city is making the change. It's, the city doing the work and the city who's making the change, that you should be able to put back what you had previously.
Right, and but the thing is, I plan on making a different fence, and it'll be okay. I'm just saying, what if, and the reason I bring this up is because there are other things, and I don't want to be a part of going around and having half of Safford have to rebuild their fences because of, without knowing. And I'm just bringing that up, not to cause problems or anything, but I just wanted to see, and you answered my question earlier, but that was the reason why I had the concern, was because I just wondered if there could be people that have a fence that's 6 foot 6 inches or something to that effect. That's where I was going with that.
And
So-
and certainly if the city's doing work and a fence is being removed at no fault of the property owner should be allowed to replace it with a similar fence and similar height.
Ed Ragland with a comment and question. the last meeting, Jim Moser commented that the 3-foot fence was so that you could see as you were backing out. So to me, it seems like the important thing is, can you see through this fence? You know, if it's a solid 4-foot fence, then it might make it tough for some little kid walking down.
Exactly.
But if it's a fence that you can see through, and I would think the chain link would probably be good, you know, where you can see through it. So I think the safety issue there of being able to see overrides how tall it actually is.
And that's addressed when given some examples where it mentions open, non-site obscuring fences.
Yeah.
And Lee Patterson with a question. And when you say that it's finished at the grade, is that on the inside of the fence?
Which, we've come across that situation with fences where there's a difference in grade from property to property, and so we will go by whatever's basically the shortest, you know? So you could have somebody with a retaining wall and it drops another 4 feet, and that means a 6-foot fence could be 10 foot, but we would measure it from that shorter property line to be fair to that property owner.
All right, thank you.
Fortunately, that's not a big issue here because we have mostly flat land. We don't have a lot of hills in town.
I've got something, to bring up, and I hate bringing up a suggestion for a change, but I was just looking at the wording, where it says about in the middle of the paragraph, or interior side yard may be constructed to a height of 6 feet when located behind the forwardmost part of the main building. I would just like to propose maybe instead of having the 6-foot start at the building, having the 6-foot start at the front yard setback, which I believe is 17 feet. My property, our house, probably is 40 feet back from our property line. And I'm just thinking of people who set their houses really far deep onto their property, maybe they would want to be able to have a 6-foot fence, but then taper it down as you get closer to the front. Does that make sense?
So the front yard setback for any structures on a property is 20 feet. So I think what you're saying is if you use the front yard setback instead of where the building is, where the very front of the house or garage or whatever the case may be, to use that as where you would be allowed to have a fence as high as 6 feet. One place where you would have conflict with that, would be on corner lots, where we have another provision in the code that requires you to go back 35 feet. So the 20-foot would conflict with the 35-foot on corner lots. But it's certainly up for discussion with the commission. But I mean, we have this other clear view at intersecting streets that would, even though it may say within the front yard setback, you'd still have to abide by this other provision in the code. So it's for discussion for the board, you know, or for the commission. Do you want to see 6-foot fences in side yards up to 20 feet of the front property line?
So, Jerry Hancock, so you're saying that it would be back, the 35 feet, if it's a side road that you have to go back, so would that even go past if say the front of the property was 20 feet to the existing structure, and you still would have to go back to the 35?
Yes, clear view, depending on, we do a triangle, so you go back 35 feet each direction, you draw a triangle, the house may be over here, but that triangle area is not right next to the house. Certainly if the house blocks the view and it's 35 feet, it's a moot point then, so. But I think it's an important point for discussion for the commission. Do you want to see 6-foot fences come that close to the street? It's a practical issue. It's also an aesthetic issue. We don't generally see that in town.
So the front yard setback would be normally 20 feet, so there should not be any structure or unit less than 20 feet from the front yard. But if it's a corner lot, then it's gonna be 35 feet.
that's that may not necessarily be true if it's a building or a house that precedes that particular provision in the zoning ordinance. So it could be something that was built 40, 50 years ago. That might not
Right,
be,
so something
yeah.
with grandfather homes.
yeah, we have a number of structures that don't meet that 20-foot setback because that particular zoning provision wasn't in place at the time those were built.
Okay. And it might
Jim
not be
Hauser?
that big of a concern, I was just thinking you do have properties that are that, you know, far back, that maybe they would like to have a little bit more of their property fenced in at 6 feet. But still, you do want it to come down to the 3 or 4 feet as you get closer to the road, so that you can see when people are pulling in and out. Any other questions?
Jim Moser here. I think that 20 feet is the front setback, 30 or 25 or whatever. And that's generally where the wall can go up to 6 feet. Even if your house is back farther, but, you know, most people won't bring it up past the front of their house, but some people might want to. But as long as you have the ability to see, you know, 20 feet back, coming out of your driveway, I think that's pretty much a standard thing. Whatever the front setback is required is what you usually start to set the 6-foot wall or the higher wall. And
That's
whatever we
kind of what
want
I
to
was
do.
thinking.
So,
that
Lee
we go
Patterson.
setback, not necessarily the property.
Right, so if it did change to the forwardmost part of the main building, would that supersede the 20 feet? Or could you do it in either or in the, you know, whatever was, if it was the start of the main building or the 20 feet, whatever's closer or whatever's, closer?
You could do that because you do have some properties that are closer than 20 feet. I don't know if yes, you could do that, because as it reads now, if you have a property that's an older home that was built before the code was in place and it's closer than 20 feet from the front setback, then as the code reads now, you would go to where that building is, not necessarily where the 20-foot setback is.
I like what Lee Patterson just brought up, that you do, the either or, like the lesser of the two, if that's possible.
Yeah, I
And
think-
then you're always gonna have at least your 20 feet, and then those properties that are maybe like at 15 feet could still go up to their building.
Yeah, I feel like if we put a number on it, then everybody's at that number and every property's not going to be the same. We don't want cookie cutter, you know? Just in my opinion.
Well, most properties
Yeah, we don't,
in the city, most of them now have 20 or 25-foot setbacks. And it's not gonna come up very often, this rule that we're talking about.
I would just like to say that I think it is important to allow people to have that 6 foot on the side from the setback, and especially where there's a lot of traffic, vehicle traffic, as well as people traffic. And back to where I live, and maybe I'm sounding a little bit selfish, but I have so many people coming by, I probably, pick up lots of cigarette butts, beer cans. Sometimes I think if it was a little bit lower, they'd step over the fence and mess with my dog. And so I just think it's good to have a little bit of that privacy where there's so much traffic coming and going. And 20th, like I think that we talked about the situation with the traffic last week, our last meeting, concerning what's gonna happen on 14th with that new place. And so I think that's what our chairman was alluding to as far as being able to have that 6 foot. And I think we should keep that in there.
Well, you just need visibility at the intersection.
Exactly, and I think that's
20
very
feet-
important.
20 feet, well, usually, or 25 will do it, usually, so I'd stick with the 20 feet, or the front setback, whatever it is.
Chairperson O'Donnell, do you wanna, take an initial vote first of the commission if they are in favor of making that change?
Okay, so we'll take a vote on who is in favor of changing the 6-foot fence to match the front yard setback, which is either gonna be 20 feet or 35 feet, or behind the forwardmost part of the building, whichever is the lesser measurement. All those in favor of those changes, please say aye.
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 Aye. All right, and then all those in, opposed, say nay. So I guess it sounds like it's unanimous.
So Chairperson O'Donnell, if someone wants to make a motion based on, what is under the recommendation, citing the specific language in the recommendation, including the, general plan reference with the changes as discussed at this meeting, you can go ahead and do that, and then I'll add something after the vote is taken.
Do we
Okay,
need to hold the
do we
public
have a
hearing just for
motion?
meeting's sake?
For the text amendment.
And we did continue the public hearing from last meeting, even though we don't have anybody here. Will you, open the public
Oh, yeah,
hearing
we
and
can-
close the public
sorry,
hearing?
I forgot, we are
That's-
still in public
That's okay,
hearing.
I forgot too. Amber reminded me.
We are discussing. All right, so we're gonna go ahead, we don't have any public, so I guess we'll close the public hearing. There are no public comments. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All right, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
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 All those who oppose, say nay. All right, motion passed. So now we'll move on to item number 8, to discuss the text amendment and any recommendations. I think we've already discussed it. Does anybody have any other points they feel that need to be discussed or considered?
Go ahead.
Okay. Did I hear someone say anything?
No, do have a question, Ed Ragland. Can I just move that we amend the proposed text presented to us with the changes that were discussed? So
Yes,
moved.
you can make a motion that, we propose the text amendment with that recommended change.
So moved.
Second?
And if I
All
could,
right, all those in favor say aye.
if I can interrupt for a second, will you with that motion
Yes.
cite, because you're supposed to cite the general plan whenever you do a text amendment. So under recommendation, it mentions, recommend city council approve the text amendment citing goal number 7, et cetera, et cetera. If you can have that be the full motion.
Okay,
Okay, I'm not sure how to move that in there, but yes, my motion would include that this is, staff is recommending for the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend to the city council approve the above text amendment citing goal 7 of the citywide land use goals and policies of the general plan. Are they gonna make it, or do we need to?
With the changes as discussed
With
at
the
the
change,
meeting.
with the changes as discussed and approved.
okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those who oppose say nay. All right, sounds like motion is passed.
So if I can just add one, if I could just add one thing before we move beyond this item. Would it be okay if the commission, allows staff to just form some language that addresses those issues and then take this, to the next step to city council as opposed to bringing it back to the planning and zoning commission for another review?
I think the consensus is yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think we're all very clear on the recommended change. I don't feel like it's too confusing, and I think we all trust that you'll do that. So yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right, we'll move on to item number 9, project updates and announcements from Director Anderson.
So, City Council approved the petition to exception for the Owens Manor subdivision, so that preliminary plat is approved. The assisted living facility on 20th, the review of that facility is complete and the changes have been done on their side, and we are just waiting on a permit application and their selection of a contractor. So that should be moving forward pretty soon. They gave me a tentative start date sometime around Labor Day on that facility. The Mount Graham Medical Office, they are completing the roof and windows, and I understand that currently is a shell building, but I understand that they will have a floor plan coming to staff for review. Jack in the Box was on hold, but is now moving forward out at the Mount Graham Shopping Center. And also, City Council approved continuing the water capacity fee and water meter reimbursement program for single-family residential, but at 50% reimbursement compared to last year. Last year, that program was new and was at 100%, and this year it'll be at 50%. But that was something council approved with the current budget. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Director Anderson. Unless someone else has anything they have questions on or want to discuss, I think we can wrap it up. I'm glad everybody was present and healthy. John and I believe, we're both healthy, but being cautious, and hopefully we'll be able to meet next time. So let's see, we've got calls to the public, but no one's there. So I guess we'll go to item number 11, the next scheduled meeting. Director Anderson, do you foresee having anything for us next month?
I don't have anything on, for the agenda currently.
Okay.
You'll just let us know.
Yeah.
You'll let us know.
Yeah, we'll do the same thing we've done in the past to make sure that we have a quorum. We'll do a call out if I have something to bring before you.
Alrighty then, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those who are opposed say nay. Alright, motion is passed, and you guys all have a good night.
Thank you,
Thank
Tracy.
Thank you,
Thanks, Tracy.
thank you,
All right, thanks, Susan.
thank you, thank you.
Does anybody ever object to adjourning?
Yeah, in any
might be a
meeting,
first.
anywhere?
In 27 years, I don't think I ever heard that.